She literally only eats chicken fingers. He refuses vegetables. She will not eat or touch a fruit. Oh my God, my children are incorrigible. They are such picky eaters. Does any of that sound familiar to you? What I want to do with today's video is I want to adjust your perspective on what a picky eater actually is. By the end of today's video, you are going to have a scientific-based approach to address that behavior, but don't let that freak you out. I swear it's going to be user-friendly. So let's get started. Welcome back. If this is our first time meeting, my name is Alicia Tomowski, and this is my channel, The Parent Brain Ball Game. Because let's be honest, guys, sometimes this parent brain, it is just not that intuitive. And you have to play ball with your kids, both figuratively and literally, to get that job done. Here, my passion is to provide you with tools, not tips, tricks, or hacks, but parenting tools that have an applied behavior analysis, and I like to think that I make them user-friendly. Now, I want to set you guys up for success. I like to make these videos relatively quick. The odds are you guys are probably a caregiver and you have a short amount of time that you're working with anyways, so I kind of need to drop those gems as quickly as possible. So go get yourself a notebook because we're about to get started. So I would not call my child a butthole to their face. Now, if I thought like swearing on YouTube was socially acceptable, I'd probably use the word because I got a little bit of a sailor's mouth. But that's besides the point. I would not call my child a butthole to their face or in the area to where they could hear me. Why would I do the same thing as calling them a picky eater? You're essentially boxing your child in. You're creating an internal voice of, oh, I only eat noodles. Or you know what? I don't like noodles with sauce because that's what Mom said. Or I overheard Dad say, I don't eat my vegetables, so I don't need to eat those vegetables anymore. We don't want to box our children in. We don't want to create that internal voice that may not already be there. The reality of it is that your child may have food aversion or texture issues that only mature due to exposure over time. So how exactly do we address those issues without having a brawl over every single mealtime? Eating, quite frankly, is such a sensory experience. There are so many different smells, tastes, textures that are going on at every single mealtime. So you might think, hey, my kid will eat cheese on a cold sandwich. They very well should be able to eat cheese on a grilled cheese, but you'd be gravely mistaken. There are two vastly different textures going on there. So in order to help us tease out the different variables, what we need to do is we need to kind of create a food diary for our child. What is it that our child will eat without hesitation? What are the commonalities? Does my kid prefer crunchy? Do they like smooth? Is it hot? Is it cold? At which point, what we want to do is we want to start introducing similar textures to our child in order to get those successes. And while you're at it, you should really consider portion sizes. If you're putting the same amount of, like, let's say they don't like peas and you're introducing peas to them. If you're putting the same amount of peas as you are carrots on their plate, they're going to get overwhelmed. Or they're going to be like, holy crap, I need to eat all of those peas. That's insane. Just as much as I need to eat those carrots. No, that is so overpowering and overwhelming to your child. What we need to do is we need to introduce very small amounts. I am talking like you need to think like a grain of rice, okay? You need to think 1 pea to an entire like cut of carrot or one of those little baby carrots if that's what your child prefers. You need to consider 1 small pea, and then we start increasing the amount from 1 pea to like maybe 2 peas, 3 peas, and then increase it from that point so it doesn't become so overpowering and so overwhelming that it induces anxiety at the dinner table or lunch table to where they're like, oh, I can't handle this. And then we move on to how much do I require my child to eat of that? That becomes a little tricky, quite frankly. I would say that there's a 2-bite requirement, only because the first bite, your sensory and your brain is on overload for how much they're supposed to be processing at that point. The second bite then allows the child to have a little bit more control, being like, oh, okay, I'm gonna stomach down a little bit more of this. Now, let's say your kid puts it in their mouth, but then immediately spits it out. Hey, you know what? You still tried it. You want to know why? Because there's taste buds on your tongue that you still tried. You still sensed that different flavor in your mouth, which is a parent win. And that's what you need to think about it as. So that second bite is a little bit more control of your child. If your child decides to take like a half of the pea-sized bite, good for you. If your child decides to take that entire bite and then maybe spits it out and is like, oh my God, I hate it. But you know what? Hey, I would provide that reinforcement. Hey, you know what? You tried it. Good job. That's great. But you know what? Now you're done. I am so happy that you tried it. Maybe we're going to try again tomorrow. Again, it's all about exposure of those different types of taste and, quite frankly, those different types of textures to your child. Now, how often do you introduce these new foods or the unpreferred foods to your child? I would recommend about 3 to 5 consecutive days. But with the caveat that you also took in consideration that food diary that you started earlier, in terms that if your child likes crunchy kale, you didn't move on to some mushy carrots. I mean, that's just gross. Like, let's progressively move our child into different textures. You want to work with the texture and or flavor and or smell that they like first, and then start venturing away. You got to be fair. But again, you want to expose them at least 3 to 5 consecutive days, keeping in mind the portion size as well. You don't want to become overpowering. You just want a little bit. I want you to be able to taste it. Additionally, you really do not, I say do not, want to use dessert as a reward. You don't want to say, okay, well, if you eat that one pea, you know what? I'm going to give you an extra piece of cake or an extra cookie or an extra. Don't do it. Just don't do it. You want to encourage a positive and good relationship with food. If you're saying, hey, you eat that pea or you eat that broccoli and then you get cake, now it becomes, oh my God, all I got to do is stomach it down. Just got to stomach it down. I need to get it down the hatch. Now I already have a negative relationship with the broccoli or pea, whatever food it is that you're reinforcing or you're trying to like introduce to me in order to get that cake. I need to do one versus the other. No. Am I saying that broccoli or peas need to be equivalent to cake? No, but nor will they ever be, let's be flippin' honest here. But what I am saying is you want to encourage your child to be able to explore those different textures and explore those different tastes without having to feel like this like anxiety of like, okay, I gotta get this down, and then I'm gonna get what I want. It's also really important that I mention, rather than doing 3 large meals a day, what I want you to consider doing is splitting those up into 5 meals a day. Why do I say that? This gives you, one, more of an opportunity to expose your child to those foods 3 to 5 consecutive days. Okay, and then additionally, this also puts a little bit less of pressure on you in terms of, okay, I need to make sure that they are getting their dairy, they're getting their meat, they're getting their fruits, they're getting their vegetables, all in those 3 meals. If you spread it out within those 5 meals a day, that gives you a little less pressure and it makes your child feel a little less anxiety in terms of like, okay, I gotta eat what's on my plate because mom's gonna get really mad. We want to take that away. Again, you're trying to build a better relationship with food because, quite frankly, as a quote-unquote picky eater, which we're moving away from that definition, your child already has a bad relationship with food. So we want to build that up. The key points to take home today is your child is not a picky eater. You need to get that out of your mind in addition to your child's mind. Your child has some texture issues and or food aversions. And what we need to do is we need to meet them in the middle. And by that I mean, go back, reference that food diary, see what it is or textures or what types of foods or smells that they prefer, and we need to meet them in the middle. So don't go from some crunchy sauteed broccoli or kale to mushy carrots. You are going to have an all-out brawl. We need to go and look at this as a spectrum and work with our child. Additionally, you need to expose your child to that particular food in that particular manner at least 3 to 5 consecutive days. Maybe consider breaking up your meals, and instead of having so much pressure on those 3 meals a day, let's break them up to 5. Let's have a couple of snacks. Let's enjoy eating, which is what we have to do, because right now your child doesn't exactly have the best relationship with food, and we want to rebuild and or repair that relationship. And finally, consider those portion sizes. You don't want to provide your child, let's say you're working from crunchy to mushy, you don't want to provide them the same amount of crunchy broccoli that they're used to at the same amount of like this mushy carrots that makes them kind of vomit in their mouth. Okay, we don't want to do that. You want to start small and then increase from there. And finally, have that 2-bite minimum. The first bite, remembering that their senses are overloaded. The second bite, give your child the control of how much do you want to take, and if you're going to spit it out, you're going to spit it out. But you know what? It got on your taste buds, and that is a win for me. That is a win in my book, and that's how you need to think of it. And that wraps it up for me today, guys. So if you found value in today's video, don't forget to hit subscribe and that little bell icon to let you know when there are any other future videos or trainings that I provide, which I typically do weekly. And please comment below of any maybe future topics that you wanted me to look into, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.